tell you. You must never put your life on the line for me.
Mother has always had a fascination for Lord Mortimer, but has never wanted to tell me why.
We are doing our utmost to find your mother as quickly as possible.
Without your mother, hundreds of men of the cloth would have gone to the guillotine.
All I can tell you is I'm looking for my sister.
Do you believe your mother capable of torturing a child?
An agreement for cannons. Lord Mortimer assured me that you are to take over the project on behalf of your mother.
Johann Christoph von Wollner, Minister of Religious Affairs, and Jacques Peroux, French Revolutionary Tribunal Judge. You will find that Lord Mortimer is not what one would call conventional, Monsieur de Richet.
I do apologize for being late. I was obliged to clear up some urgent business.
At last we meet, Monsieur de Richet. Do you mind if I call you Louis?
Please do.
Thank you. I wish to apologize wholeheartedly, Louis. I made you cross the seas, and I wasn't even here to welcome you. When I asked you to join us here, it was, of course, in the hope that you would help us find your mother. Unfortunately, I am now confronted with another problem, which I would rather have done without. You see, last night, Miss Adams also went missing.
And why is that? Can you tell me more?
I have had my people searching for her all over the island. Alas, to no avail. It so happens that both her mental and her physical health are extremely fragile. I'm worried that the same thing happened to her as to your mother. Also, I would appreciate it very much if you could tell me what you were doing on the floor in her room in the early hours
It's quite
of the
normal.
morning.
I can explain everything.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear it. You see, Sir Gregory is about to arrive, and he's taken Elizabeth's disappearance very, very seriously. Please, reassure him so that we can talk about your mother.
William, I would like to see you a moment before we begin. In private.
Let's step outside a moment. Louis, this will only take a few moments.
Better not make myself look more suspicious than I already do.
Good evening, Monsieur de Richet.
Likewise, Sir Gregory.
Well then, let us begin.
Gregory, Louis told me we needn't be concerned.
Of course. Monsieur de Richet, the situation seems to escape your grasp, so I won't beat about the bush. Did you kill Elizabeth Adams?
What are you talking about? I only helped her. We talked and she wanted to leave. I imagine that's what she did, right?
We have found no trace of her leaving, monsieur. So allow me to have my doubts.
Nor have we found any reason to believe that Louis is lying. We must remain calm, Gregory. We have found no evidence that would suggest that Elizabeth has been murdered. For the time being, she has only disappeared. Let's stick to the facts, if you please.
Well, where is she then?
probably gone back home. She didn't want to stay here any longer. She seemed very uncomfortable here. Why imagine the worst?
Until there is evidence to the contrary, your mother is still lurking nearby, and I dare not think what would happen were they to meet. Damnation, William! This is a fiasco. Sir, you don't seem to realize just how serious this is.
Let's try and remain calm, Gregory. In any case, it would be far better if Elizabeth really has left the island, as Louis says. Why do you think she wanted to leave?
She couldn't bear it anymore. She was becoming hysterical and drinking heavily. She was panic-stricken at the thought of staying here, and I didn't know she wasn't allowed to leave.
It's not that she was a prisoner here, Louis, but Elizabeth is mentally very fragile, and I fear she might do something terrible to herself or others. She wasn't ready, and you have made a grave mistake by encouraging her.
William, don't justify yourself. You won't even answer the question. What is the real reason, Monsieur de Richet?
She was terrorized by my mother's presence here. Just the thought of coming face to face with her was unbearable.
Did she tell you why?
Yes, she brought the subject up.
I'm sorry, Louis. It couldn't have been easy to hear.
For your sake, I sincerely hope that she got there safely. Monsieur de Richet, I apologize if my words seemed a little abrupt. I dare not think what would happen if Elizabeth came across your mother on the island. Your generosity may well cost you dearly.
I understand, my lord. I certainly regret it.
You don't need us for any of this. So come along, Monsieur Peru. We are leaving.
Right. It's time we spoke about your mother, Louis.
She isn't missing, you know.
What? What do you mean?
My mother has left traces in every nook and cranny of your island, my lord. She's definitely here. Now, what worries me most is why she doesn't show herself.
That doesn't make me feel any better, Louis.
What was the official reason why my mother came to your island?
I knew about your mother's activities, and yours, in the Golden Order. I thought we had everything to gain by working together.
You mean the canon deal with Monsieur Bonaparte?
Among others, yes. How did you hear about that?
Monsieur Bonaparte came to speak to me about it yesterday, during lunch.
I see. So impetuous. He was supposed to let me speak to you about it first. Our friend Napoleon desperately needed financial backing to properly equip his army. I took it upon myself to back him because I have a firm conviction that he can go far.
We shall see. However, there's one thing that surprises me. Isn't Bonaparte a bit young to deserve so much attention?
Well, you come straight to the point. I like that. Indeed, if you knew just how much you remind me of him. Trust me, I'll wager that Monsieur Napoleon will soon prove himself. I'm working on it, at least. Once this deal was closed, I had big plans for Sarah.
Such as what?
You see, I've invited several influential figures on my island to present them with a project at the conference. It will be presented later today. I thought that the Golden Order had a role to play. And I still think so. I was hoping Sarah would be able to join us.
I see.
Indeed, if by chance your mother decided not to return to us before the conference, would you do me the great honor of attending? If only to follow the deliberations while waiting for her to duly take her seat.
Why not? We shall see.
Ah, thank you so much. In this way, you'll be able to keep your mother informed of what is said. There's something else I'd like to briefly go over. Earlier, you asked me the official reason for your mother's presence here. Is there an off-the-record reason why your mother came here?
If Only my mother trusted me, but she remained very mysterious. I'd have been delighted to answer your question.
Is this usual for her?
As head of the Order, secrets are her bread and butter, as you can imagine. That said, it's the first time she hasn't let me in on the reason for her trip. And it intrigues me, to tell you the truth.
Well, I'm sure that Sarah will explain everything once she reappears. There's something I still don't get. In your opinion, why would your mother remain in hiding over several weeks?
I'd like to find a logical answer, but I just can't see anything. Apart from the fact that she might have lost her mind. Since I came here, I've ceased to understand her. That, plus what I've found out about her past, and I'm left with the bitter feeling that I never really knew her.
I can understand you beginning to feel that way after these past 2 days, but I'm sure all will become clear once your mother reappears. The only thing I can tell you is that Sarah had indeed changed. At the beginning of her stay here, we enjoyed spending time together, solving the world's problems.
You seem to know my mother very well, my lord. What did you talk about together?
Oh, as soon as we had a little free time, we liked to share points of view about practically any subject. We would find ourselves embarked on interminable discussions that could go from Monsieur Blanchard's flight in a hot air balloon to the Treaty of Jassy, or the adoption of the metric system in France last year, or even Mr. Eli Whitney's invention in the United States.
Ah, yes. His famous cotton gin. It was supposed to revolutionize cotton production in the United States.
It will revolutionize the world, Louis. The potential of this invention is much greater. Tomorrow, all industries will be switching to simple but large-scale production. Of that, I'm sure.
I'm surprised she didn't get you started on the Crusades. It was her favorite subject.
Are you joking? Sarah and I spent entire days together reliving them. It so happens that the Crusades are also my subject of predilection, especially the third. My ancestor distinguished himself brilliantly during the siege of Saint-Jean d'Acre.
Mother lulled my childhood with tales of the Crusades. How Richard the Lionheart and Philip Augustus had to battle it out to achieve their ends. And how Guy de Lusignan, having broken his word, launched the siege of Saint-Jean d'Acre.
Oh, I see Sarah's lessons have inspired new enthusiasts. Good on you, because not everyone can claim they know as much at your age. Your mother is a very well-read woman. You're quite lucky to have her as a model, Louis.
Yes, I know, but I'm still very worried.
I must admit, there are worse things to worry about now, Louis.
What do you mean?
Since she disappeared, your mother has been seen once. Her behavior on the evening of your arrival greatly surprised Gregory and myself. She resurfaced to attack Emma, Emily Hillsborough's twin sister. And she shot her with a pistol. Then, before Gregory could intervene, she ran off and disappeared again.
I beg your pardon? Hang on. That means my vision on the wharf, it was actually happening inside the manor. Mother shot Emily's sister? The very person she came looking for? Why would she do that? Excuse me, but between that and the childhood of Lady Adams, it's all a bit much for me to cope with. I need to piece it all together again to see things more clearly. You said that you spent a lot of time talking together at the beginning. What happened for that to change?
I'm afraid I haven't much to tell you. The more the days went by, the more she withdrew into herself. She never gave me an explanation. Until the day came when she purely and simply disappeared.
Where did she go when she wanted to be alone?
She would shut herself away in a room we use as a box room upstairs.
Would you allow me to go there?
Naturally, Louis, of course. I'll send you a servant to open it.
Thank you.
That's all I can tell you about the disappearance of your mother, Louis. I would like to have been more helpful.
I shall stay on her trail and follow up any leads.
Thank you. We will meet later on to welcome our last guest. In the meantime, I shall get someone to open the box room upstairs for you.
Thank you. The room was just opposite Mortimer's study. There are burnt papers in the chimney. There's a legible fragment left. Hey, I recognize my mother's handwriting. She says, we must find a safer way to communicate. Someone is onto us. Trust in my faith in the man with the sword. So Mother had an accomplice here. Who could it be? Who could she be suspicious of? I must find the next part. Faith, sword. I recognize her love of riddles there. Honey, I couldn't have hoped for better.
Dante's Paradise.
Raise your head and be reassured, for what comes up here from the mortal world must ripen in our rays.
What is this disc? St. Paul on the Road to Damascus by Caravaggio. A fierce opponent of the first Christians, St. Paul is suddenly struck by the call of Jesus Christ and converts. It's the best known conversion in Christian history, which teaches us that even enemies of Christ can be saved, and even become his greatest apostles after finding faith. From what I can recall, the account of his conversion could be found in the epistles to the Galatians, the Philippians, the Corinthians, and the Acts of the Apostles. Caravaggio attained a magnificent command of black and the play of colors too. Paul facing an ordeal, the curtains of his illusions being raised, and receives the light from his Savior. St. Paul on the Road to Damascus by Caravaggio. A Chinese coin. The door appears to be locked on the other side. The door appears to be locked on the other side. I think I heard something fall to the ground. A metallic sound, like a key falling to the floor. We'll see if it works. It's open.
chest with the occult symbol representing air. A drawing of the Apostle Matthew, painted by Guido Reni. He's represented as writing the word of the Lord, transmitted by the Holy Spirit, who appears here in the guise of an angel. The New Testament. And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in Jordan. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread, and blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them, and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread, and blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them, and said, Take, eat, this is my body. Then came together unto him the Pharisees, and certain of the scribes, which came from Jerusalem. And it came to pass the day after, that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. And so it was that, while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. I and my Father are one. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven like a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. and he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they were made ready, he fell into a trance. Hey, there's a note here. A message from Mother in reply to E. We must leave urgently, but first I absolutely must go beyond the nightmare. Watch out for Volner. He figured out I was avoiding him. Allay suspicion. See you tomorrow evening. Stand ready. For now, let's cease all communication until we meet. Take care of yourself. I suppose this must be the last message. What happened afterward? If it's what I suspect, I fear the worst. What did Mother mean by, I absolutely must go beyond the nightmare? I must go beyond the nightmare. What does she mean by that? I'm guessing it's a metaphor. I need to figure out what this means. Mortimer's getting his guests together. I ought to join them so I don't look suspicious. A chest with the occult symbol representing air. It's time I went back and joined everyone in the small salon.
You are expected in the small salon, sir. You are expected in the small salon, sir.
Emily, I must speak to you.
What's the matter, Louis?
I have news about your sister.
What have you found out?
Look, I've started piecing together the events leading up to my mother's disappearance and your sister's. Did my mother know about your secret?
Yes, even though I belong to the English chapter, her rank in the Order gives her access to a good deal of personal information.
It must have been Emma I saw in my vision.
I was given to understand that my mother and your sister bonded during their stay. I've got a question that might seem a little bit strange.
I'm listening.
If I said go beyond the nightmare, would that ring any bells?
No, means nothing to me. Do you mean literally or figuratively speaking?
It might be a place, I don't know where, but it's a lead.
You ought to ask His Eminence. He knows the house and its estate very well, being a frequent visitor here.
Thanks for the advice.
Should I speak to her about my vision? If what I saw is true, she might want to take revenge. Better keep that to myself for the time being.
Come, Louis. They're waiting for us.
You will pay dearly, Peru. I'm sure you were involved somewhere along the line.
That's right. Pretend you don't know. One piece of advice. Don't travel through France on your way back, or it'll cost you dearly.
Calm now, my friends. Let's calm down. Everyone seems to be a little unnecessarily heated. Don't forget where you are, please.
What's going on here exactly?
Sir Gregory called us together to introduce the last guest.
But hardly had we arrived when he set upon Monsieur Peru.
And what has Mr. Peru done to once again provoke someone's anger?
We don't really know just yet.
I get the feeling it won't be long before it gets out.
How could you dare do such a thing? Dios mío, you are all out of your minds!
Really, Duke Manuel? What made you kick up such a fuss?
What? Have you not heard? Well, let me inform you that yesterday morning at 10:22 a.m. precisely, in the middle of the Place de la Révolution in Paris, by decree of the National Convention which Monsieur Peru works for, King Louis was guillotined.
What?
Oh, no.
The King of France is dead, gentlemen. Our monarchies are in danger. I have said it before.
How dare they?
Oh, dear.
Oh, as if...
Friends, let us calm down.
Don't pretend to be surprised. He got a fair trial.
Ridiculous! Bastard! He was sentenced to death by 361 votes to 360. You beheaded a king for one vote! Is that your democracy?
What an obnoxious act. Until this, anything was possible. This political coup will have grave consequences.
France is lost.
Gentlemen, please. Let us take a step back a moment.
In the name of holiness. He was the highest representative of God in France, Emily.
Gentlemen, Duchess, we're all among people of reputable company here. We should be able to manage the conflicts of our nations in a respectful and orderly manner.
I fully agree with you, sir.
But
That's enough, sir.
with whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
Louis Maras de Richet.
Are you related to Sarah de Richet?
Sarah is his mother, Duke. Gentlemen, this news affects us all, but I must ask you to remain calm. It's not the first time history has taken us by surprise. Let's ensure that our respective countries are allowed to respond appropriately to this news.
Oh, rest assured. The response will not fall short, my friend.
Good for you. Well, Your Grace, here I was preparing to introduce you as is proper, and you've beaten me to it. I'm delighted that we are all together at last. Our meeting will therefore be able to kick off shortly. I have just a few more little preparations to take care of before you all find out the reason for your presence here. In the meantime, I shall leave you to get to know one another. When you hear the bell, please proceed to the conclave room on my left, behind that door. I'll see you later.
Could you spare a moment, please, sir?
I'm glad you asked. I want to talk to you, too. Of course.
I heard about your mother's disappearance.
He looks concerned. I don't know why, but I doubt it's from sympathy alone. Well, let's see what he wants from me.
Any news of her? Have you found her, maybe?
Why? Is there something you particularly wanted from her?
No, not specially.
My questions made him feel uneasy, but he's keeping his emotions under control.
Your mother and I used to often speak together. I have rarely met someone so learned. To tell you the truth, I was about to make a deal with her. Did she tell you about our arrangement?
The cat's out of the bag now. More or less, but please do refresh my memory.
Yes, of course. Nothing of great importance in itself. During one of our discussions, she spoke of an old book, which might have been of interest to me, and she had agreed to let me have it.
A book about what?
Ancient occultism. As you are aware, I am a doctor of theology. You might have come across some old books in her belongings, perhaps?
The least one can say is that he doesn't beat around the bush. Sarah never travels without a few books. What does the one you're looking for look like exactly?
It resembles a grimoire. It's divided into 7 parts, each one individually locked. It was made in such a way that if someone tried to tamper with it, the sheets would be permanently tarnished. It's a unique copy. There's only one.
The mere mention of it makes his face light up. Well, I'll take a closer look, but I can't promise you anything. You seem very upset. Is it so important to you, this book?
Well, it's the search of a lifetime. What can I say? Every time I move closer to it, it seems to slip away at the last minute. I was very surprised to learn that your mother had it in her possession. I thought it was with a certain von Borchardt in Paris. Do you know him?
Indeed. My mother and I had a brush with this individual just a few months ago.
What about?
About an object stolen from the Order a few years ago, which my mother wanted to recover.
This situation comes as a great surprise to me.
I got him now. I hope I've been able to satisfy your curiosity, Mr. von Wollner, and that you succeed in finding what you're looking for.
Oh, and so do I.
And now, what if you told me who you really are working for, instead of keeping up this pretense?
I beg your pardon?
We both know what you're looking for, von Wollner. You're the one who von Borchardt was planning to sell it to.
For centuries, all those who have come into contact with the Al-Azif have bitterly regretted it, Monsieur de Richet. You are playing a dangerous game. Please know that I am working for someone who does not appreciate anyone poking around in his business.
Let me guess. Lord Mortimer.
Oh, you are way off the mark. There's nothing more for us to say. Goodbye.
Mr. President, what do you think about your counterpart, Duke Manuel?
I'm very surprised he was able to accept Lord Mortimer's invitation, given the political situation in Spain.
I wonder what promise Lord Mortimer could have made to make him agree to come here, given the circumstances.
Who knows?
Go beyond the nightmare. Does this line remind you of anything in particular?
You've caught me unaware here, Louis. Let me think about it a second. No, nothing comes to mind. Sorry, Louis, but I am unable to help you.
Mr. President, can you tell me a little more about the coming conference?
Of course, Louis. That's why we're here. Lord Mortimer or Sir Gregory regularly organize meetings like this to put forward major projects.
What do you mean by major projects?
I'd prefer to let Lord Mortimer explain that to you, Louis. Let's say he brings together influential people in order to consider possible actions to undertake to guarantee the future of nations.
Do you know the theme of the conference?
Not in the slightest. None of the guests know the theme before arriving. But you'll see, everything will turn out fine. Don't worry.
Well, thank you for your time.
Don't mention it, my young friend. Regarding your question on the nightmare, don't hesitate to question the others about it. Maybe one of them knows more than I do.
That's a good idea. Thank you once again. I'll see you in a little bit.